Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz. And if you missed last week's episode, you should check it out. It was Roy Yamaguchi, celebrity chef. Really cool interview, very interesting. And pretty soon, we are going to be announcing a new program. Very excited about. Yes, we've been teasing this for a while. I'm going to continue to do so and be very annoying until we finally announce it, but it's coming up soon. So today's guest is Christian Oth, amazing photographer. I was in New York City in his wonderful studio and also met his business development person, Mackenzie. What a great crew of people. I found Christian to be humble, vulnerable, passionate, and really just a consummate professional. Christian's experience in fashion and photojournalism and portraiture, advertising and still life all combines into an editorial style that makes Christian truly one of a kind. I was so knocked out. American Photo named him one of the world's 10 best photographers, and his work has appeared in top fashion and wedding publications, including Vogue, Vanity Fair, Harper's Bazaar, New York Times Magazine, O Magazine, numerous wedding publications, and so much more. And he has a long list of impressive wedding clients, including actress Amanda Peet, former executive producer of Sex and the City, ABC News anchor Melanie Bloom, and many prestigious clients from the entertainment, fashion, and journalism industries. And I was really lucky to get to see a new announcement, a new program, which he just announced very recently. And on this show, you're going to hear him talk all about it. So if you haven't heard his announcement yet about a new program, I don't want to give it away, but it is mind-blowing. Let me just tell you that. I want to urge you, too, to listen to the following episode called The Next Level, in which my co-host and I tease out some of the highlights, some of the main points of the interview, and help to break them down and deliver specific tactics and tips to help you raise your business to the next level. So be sure to check that out. And now, my conversation with Christian Oth. So Christian, it is such a pleasure to see you in your office here in New York City. Your office is beautiful. When I came out of the elevator, it's like immediately it just hit me. And several people have been suggesting for many months that I have you on the show. So I'm really glad we're able to sit down.
Well, thank you, Andy. Thank you for coming to my studio here in New York and doing this podcast here. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
Also a little nervous. So don't usually do a podcast, but
oh, good.
Yeah.
I like nervous. Oh, good. Everybody feels that way at first. But, I'm also going to immediately create quite a teaser for the listeners by saying that in a week or so, and this is July 17th right now.
July 24th.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to announce it on July 24th?
Yeah, July 24th.
Yeah, you're doing a big announcement, and I was able to get some information and see what you're talking about. I am so excited for you, Christian. And so we're going to get to that sometime in the show, a little bit later. I want to hear all the details about it, but I imagine the excitement is just palpable here. It's got to be.
Yeah, it's been something we've been working on for since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
We had to sort of read it out as a concept, and then it took a little while to get everything in place and to shoot it.
Yeah.
And it's ready to be announced next week.
Oh God, well, it blows me away. I can't wait to get to it in this conversation. But I would love to know more about your background and how you grew up and how it affects you today. And I believe you grew up in South Africa. Is that right?
Yes, South Africa. I partially grew up in South Africa, but I was born in Austria. I'm from Vienna, from the Vienna Woods, and lived there until I was 16 years old. My father moved down to South Africa, and he put me into high school there.
What grade were you when you moved over?
What's the American equivalent? 9 or something.
Oh, okay. So not bad. It's not like you had a huge, social thing happening and all of that.
No. It was wonderful. I was 16 at the time, so those were truly formative years being in South Africa in an English-speaking school and whatnot. I had to learn English.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, really?
Didn't do too well before. My English teacher funny enough, in Austria, it was about a year before that. Said, Mr. Oth, they get you by the last name. They have to call you by the last name. So she said, Mr. Oth, you will never be able to speak English in your life. Yeah, and I hope I'm doing okay now.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think I follow. Yeah. Well, so when you were like a teenager, was there any hint of this passion that you have, visually with photography, and any hint of it?
I have to admit, it took me a while to get to where I'm now. But it was about at age 17 or so that I fantasized about becoming a photographer. I was kind of like, that's kind of cool, be a photographer. You get to travel the world and, and really see things. And I sort of voiced this and, oh my God, the entire family and everybody's like, no, don't become a photographer. Work for a bank. I don't know.
Oh, no. Do a straight ahead path.
Do something that makes you money or whatever. And you know what? They were mostly right. I was pretty poor for a while. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, what happened? Did you go to college?
I went to photo school here in New York, International Center of Photography.
Well, wait a minute. How did the transition from moving from there all the way overseas to a school in the States, how did that come to be?
I went to high school in South Africa, and then after that, I was jobbing around a bit, and I wasn't going anywhere. And then I decided to and my passion for photography picked up when I came to New York first. And I was 19 years old.
Why did you move here to New York at 19?
It's a funny story. There's a Caribbean component here. My mother, she opened a hotel in the Caribbean. Yeah. And, she thought it would be good for me to work for her in her hotel. It didn't last long. It lasted months.
Working for your mother.
And I was like, Mom, I need to do something like different than just working for your hotel and everything. She didn't believe in having me pursue any more education. Huh. And then, I walked away and I had a ticket left in my pocket to go to New York. And I just took that flight. When I came back to New York, it was like I had $500 in my pocket. I was 19 years old. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Wow.
Yeah. And I worked here. As a waiter and whatnot. But while I worked here as a waiter, at age 19, I met another. He's also another waiter, another Austrian, but he was already a photojournalist. He kind of took me under his wings. His name was Christoph. And he helped me buy my first camera. And then showed me which school to go to. Uh-huh. And so I took a Photo 101 course. And that's how I got started. It was like at age 19. And from there on out, it was more of a hobby for me. It was, it was honing my skills and whatnot. And, it took a few more years for me to actually really go to photo school and put myself through it. Mm-hmm. Which, I then went back to that school. It was the ICP where I did my Photo 101 class, and I went to the full-time program there.
So what was it what was that transition point, starting to actually earn money as a photographer? How did you manifest that?
That took a while.
Were you still waiting tables and just doing odd jobs?
Yeah, I did a lot of odd jobs. It took a few more years. After photo school, I started the assisting route, and I assisted commercial photographers. And I was starting to shoot for small magazines, small newspapers, and whatnot. And it was sort of a gradual path until I got some commercial clients who then hired me for advertising campaigns, and I did more fashion stories. So I had that career going of like becoming a commercial photographer. And then it was in 2001, it was right after 9/11. Yeah. I got 2 phone calls the week after 9/11, exactly almost a week after that. And it was 2 magazines that shot for 2 clients of mine. It's like, oh, Christian, payment's going to be taking a while or can't pay you at all. Yeah. And if you know anything about, professional photography, photographers that are starting out have to take on some really bad clients. And it's and I still don't know how big corporations get away with it. They pay you, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. And most people who are starting out, who are not independently funded by a family or whatever, have cash flow problems. So getting started was very, 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 very hard. There was a point when I had to pawn my camera.
Oh, come on.
It was that bad.
Oh my God.
I was poor. I was like living in the East Village, like tons of roommates and everything. And so getting started was hard. there wasn't a path into photography that like we have nowadays. Into, like for example, like nowadays, if you want to become a wedding photographer, there's a lot of classes you can take and workshops and whatnot. It just didn't exist at the time. But more through the story of how I got into wedding photography, that happened after 9/11. I'd already been shooting weddings for another outfit, another photographer. Yeah. And after 9/11, I said, like, I had a few images and I built a website. Within by October that year, in 2001, I had a website up, and that was in 2001. And I had a huge competitive advantage as a photographer. I had a website.
Yeah. Oh, right. We're talking. Right. 2001. I'm forgetting. I'm sitting here thinking.
Exactly. Yeah. So especially like in the wedding space, it was like I booked weddings like crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. 30 weddings in the first year.
Oh my God. That's practically unheard of.
Yeah.
Well, and also I imagine it's not obviously just the website, but it's your style and what you bring to it. Yeah. People were seeing something.
Yeah. Thank you for that. What I brought to it was my sensitivity, like as, shooting editorial, commercial and everything. And I had a competitive advantage because also not only like did I bring some like an editorial style into it, but I had very little competition. I mean, there were good photographers. I mean, there's the great photographers that actually still exist today that were there during that era, but it was mostly awful.
But can you define, I mean, I have my own ideas, but if you could define what editorial style is in your mind.
When I got started, I'm going to sort of back up a little bit.
Sure.
I was like, okay, I'm going to shoot weddings now. So, and then there was a sort of vernacular with weddings that at the time that there was a style of photography that you saw. And that was wedding photography. And I went at it. And
it was a lot of portraits, right? Stuff like that.
Very, very like traditional portrait-ish and whatnot. And a lot of sucks. Was it like Vaseline over the lens?
Right. Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
Really awful. So I looked at it and was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. But will I get away with shooting it editorial? So editorial for me means like documentary, photojournalism, photographing true emotions and and capturing that in film. Yeah. Shooting film at the time. I was bringing that, and it was immediately recognized because people look genuine. The photos are genuine. It's like, it's their expressions, it's their emotions, and I was able to capture that. But the other part that I brought into it is because I also shot fashion. So I had a sensibility of making somebody look beautiful.
Yeah, presenting in a certain way.
Yeah, getting that out of them. So it's not just photojournalism. It's also like having a layer of portraiture or whatever methodology you use like in shooting fashion.
But Christian, I'm curious, for a lot of people who are doing something either that isn't done very much or even innovative, I mean, did you feel a sense of risk when you made that decision to try to do it that way? Or did you just feel so confident this is the way and people will like it?
I was nervous.
Were you?
Yeah. I was just, I'm going to survive on this. But it got very quickly, that my decisions were reaffirmed by the bookings, by the clients that came in, which was funny. I mean, like initially I was in a small space and two other photographers, and there was three of us who were sharing a studio and had like a tiny little office in it. And there was a shooting space in the middle of it that I didn't have any rights to. Okay. Maybe on the weekends or something, because one guy was always shooting in there. But even like signing that lease with these guys, and it was like, are you going to be able to pay $700 a month? Yeah. And I was like, can I pay the $700 a month or whatever it was? It's like, that was a risky decision. And I was like sweating bullets, like I took a financial risk here, and I have to pay that additional rent. But it worked out. It worked out within a few months, and there's a little bit of luck getting the right clients and whatnot. Yeah. Well, I'd like to ask you about, there's a quote that I read somewhere that you said, once you start seeing the world in pictures, you frame things with your eyes with a higher consciousness of your surroundings. I love that I can see things in a certain way, whether I have a camera or not. Can you say more about that? I love that. Oh my God. Did I say that? You did. Very eloquent. Yeah, right. Where did I put that? So it's true that I always, and it's probably true for many photographers or visual people, that you constantly think about your surroundings, and when you visually trained, your brain processes things in a different way. I mean, I can see you right now here, but what would happen if I put a medium format camera,
or another face on me?
No. I mean, and then do some shallow focus, pre-visualize almost everything you see. Sometimes this is the funny thing about that is there's always the sort of the fresh eyes thing when you go somewhere new. The new is exciting, and then that's when I frame things in my eyes.
So you're immediately thinking like whatever landscape or something. You're like, what could I do with this?
Yes, exactly.
Wow, yeah. Sounds like an exciting way to live. This is just constant for you.
Yeah, it's constant. I mean, constant.
Well, what about when you are shooting people, weddings, whatever? I imagine there's such a decision process in your mind. It must be so instinctual at this point what you're going to do with so many possibilities, right?
It is, but there's always new. There's always, every person is different. I can't say that I've shot 2 weddings that are alike. And I always like to draw something new out of a person, and that keeps it fresh for me.
For you, yeah.
For me. Having said that, I mean, there's the challenges, obviously, and when you photograph real people, not models, you use a different methodology to get, great pictures. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and something related to that, I'm going to give you another quote that you said. It's another eloquent one.
I love being quoted.
But it's connected to what you're bringing up now. It's so our creative technique is formed at the intersection where idea meets reality, encapsulating an entire moment in such a way to evoke emotion and most of all, authentic beauty.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. But that's what you're talking about, right? Especially with real people, not a fashion shoot. Isn't it all about bringing out the emotion?
So, I could go in and pose people in a tried and true pose where I know they're going to look great. I employ some of this, by the way. But maybe that's only a starting point. The other big ingredient in there is to have great energy. And the energy is that the subject has, the couple, and and how it flows between the photographer and the couple. Yeah, that is in my view the most important ingredient. And then you got to expose, right, and focus, which was difficult, by the way, sometimes. And you got to get it all. You got to get it all together. But just to draw that energy out is the most important ingredient in these photos. So I go in and maybe I frame something right in my head, and I have a composition in mind. I make sure that the energy flows, and the energy flows. It starts very early on in the process. It's not just on the wedding day. It's because you interacted with your subjects beforehand.
I imagine it's the moment you meet them, right?
Yeah,
it starts right there.
Communication. Yeah. I always encourage to do a shoot beforehand, like an engagement shoot or something like that.
Oh, something just to kind of warm up the relationship and for you to see what's...
Yeah. Or if we don't get to do that, and let's say it's a destination wedding, I always ask them to give me an hour or 2 or 3, and let's say like they're in the south of France and Cap Ferrat. Well, let's take the car and drive around and shoot some pictures. And do that before the wedding.
Oh, wow.
Not just on the wedding day. And so that really warms, couples up. Sometimes those shoots, by the way, can be better than the wedding shoots.
Oh, because they're not on, on a pedestal with everyone looking at the whole thing.
Well, also, they have a lot going on that day.
Yeah, right. It's a lot of emotion, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's a lot of emotion. And the other thing that's really important is that, I don't want to make it a photo shoot either. It's a wedding.
Yeah.
But then I have to have enough time to get the photos. So that's a bit of a dance of getting the right amount. So some people just want photos. It's like, Christian, here we are, and then just take us anywhere. don't worry, we'll miss the cocktail hour. And whatever. So, okay, great. I'll just run around and we'll get the great photos. And some people just want to give me 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they're hosting and there's family dynamics, and maybe some of them may be worrying about something. But, the main thing, and this is going back to the energy, is that, they feel enthusiastic, they feel comfortable in front of the camera. I do what I can on my end to facilitate that.
Isn't that really, in a sense, building a trust that they could be vulnerable with you and trust that you're going to, present this in a way that's they're going to be comfortable with and love? It's a real trusting relationship, isn't it?
It has to be. I mean, a bride will see a photographer much more than a groom on a wedding day.
That's interesting.
So you better trust that person. If you can't trust your photographer, then you hired the wrong person.
Well, and I'm also thinking with what we're talking about, what you're talking about is they have to let go too. I mean, it's such a vulnerable place to be in, isn't it?
Yeah. So I have a little blog on my website. The blog's called "There's a Photographer in the Room," and that I discuss tips on how, particularly written for the bride and the groom, how to prepare themselves to get better photos. One of the blog posts is I call it "A Bride Needs to Be a Bride on a Wedding Day." It's all about letting go and because you can't change anything anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So if I have a bride who's worried and that, about the flowers or this, or somebody doesn't show up, and said, like, let it go. Sometimes when I see a frown, I say, happy face, please. Happy face. Right? Yeah.
Well, you just got me laughing. You got to keep them loose, right?
You have to. It's, but the energy, there is great energy. There has to be great energy for the photos to work.
I want to talk about another aspect too, and I'm going to do yet another quote of yours. I love these things I've seen. So you also say, we don't walk in with preconceived notions. I like to come up with new shots to open up to new visual stimulation. It's out there if you know where to look. And we're committed to capturing the organic in-between moments.
That's correct. Every time I go somewhere, I see something new. And I hope I see something new, and that keeps me interested. And so when I speak about in between moments, there is when you shoot. Let's just talk about a couple shoot. Photograph them together and whatnot. There is this, this is interaction that I have with the couple, which is always it's me and them, or them and me. So they're conscious about me, my energy. I direct them somewhat. Then I try let them try to do their own thing. Yeah. When it comes to these in between moments, one technique we employ is we always have a second photographer. Sometimes we have 3 photographers. So sometimes the second photographer is off to the side, gets that shot from the side. Yeah,
and they're not even aware at all.
Not aware of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes those shots come out better than what the first photographer got. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But those are little techniques that are employed to, get these in between moments, and
I also wonder, and this is a hint at this great announcement that I can't wait to get into in a little while, where environment plays into, what we're going to be talking about. What role does environment play, generally speaking?
Big role. There's a big difference if, I'm going to talk about the getting ready room, for example. If the room is tall, has big windows, lots of light, as opposed to low ceilings, small windows, artificial light, it makes it so, I don't know, bigger, ethereal, more grand. So basically, I need the location to be pretty. And, I'm a photographer, damn it.
Yeah.
So there's only that much I can do about the environment. So if you're having a wedding at a chateau, or, even in New York, a Blue Hill is such a pretty venue. I mean, we shoot there all the time. It makes all the difference. Yeah. So, and I'm very specific about, when it comes to the getting ready photos, I get very involved. Let's say somebody's having a wedding in New York, and I do ask them, are you going to get ready in a hotel or private home or something? And if they get it ready in a hotel, I ask which one, because there's only very few that have these tall windows and rooms.
Yeah.
And whereas I'm always open to new venues and whatnot, but when like sleek and modern, most of the time doesn't work. I mean, there are exceptions to this, but most of the time doesn't work. It doesn't lend itself to the subject matter. Yeah.
That's interesting. And what about clients also? There's a lot of talk in the industry about how much more educated they are now, you know, and so, right. And so their expectations have risen. I mean, and it presents certain kind of challenges, maybe opportunities too. But how do you feel about that?
Well, ever since the invention of the iPhone and the proliferation of Instagram, almost everybody has developed a much more visual, people are so much more visually educated. Not only by, like in the past, you were looking at magazines and whatnot to get your inspiration, but we have become so much more of a visual society. Everybody, posts on Instagram and posts their fabulous lives on Instagram, and there's almost a awareness and sensitivity and whatnot with this much more visual society that we're having now.
Does this make it more difficult, like even in the, let's call it the sales process, when people are coming to consider working with you and they come with maybe preconceived notions?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. I actually love it. I love it that my clients are visually more aware. And we're not just another line item in the wedding planning process. So now they're truly coming to me because they've seen the photos that I produce or my
and they have a better way to almost focus and assess.
Exactly. So the clients that hire me now they've seen my work. And they want that. And this is if I want to give some advice to potential brides, clients out there, hire a photographer based on his or her portfolio and don't ask him to do something else. Like there is another style. Because this is, if a photographer shoots a certain way, that's what they're going to give you. And that's what they're going to be best at.
Well, I'm also thinking, you're an artist, and it's funny. I'm watching this show, Genius. I forget which show it is on TV. And right now the subject is Picasso. And they're talking Picasso, and I'm sure it closely follows, factual history about his life and how in the beginning, of course, with painters, he would get commissions and people would want things in a certain way. And it was a big struggle for him because he had his art and his way of doing it and the internal struggle with that. And eventually just saying, look, I'm doing this my way. I'm not even going to take commissions. I'm going to go for it. But there's also letting an artist be an artist.
Oh, absolutely. And, for example, if you are... Let's say, you bought a plot of land and now you hire an architect to build a house on it. You should hire an architect based on his or her portfolio and let the architect just go and create. And maybe the architect has a few notes like how many bedrooms do you want to have? But hire the creatives. Based on the creativity and their portfolio.
Yeah, let them do their thing. That's what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm also curious about shooting celebrities and other kind of high-profile clients. How is that different for you? Or is it not?
No, it's different and not. Sometimes, all right, so let's say a celebrity is an actress. She'll be better in front of the camera. So that's a bonus.
Well, she's super image conscious. She's been trained by media and all of that.
Exactly. And it's actually in a way more wonderful, to do that.
Yeah.
There's egos floating around that sometimes you have to go through. You have to cut through, and I become their friend, and it's part of the crew and not an outsider.
Yeah.
You can't shoot a celebrity wedding as an outsider.
Hey everyone, I just want to take a moment to talk about something really important, which is connected to what Christian talks about in this conversation. He talks about not having preconceived notions when he goes to an event, and he's always looking for the surprises, for the special emotional moments, the organic kind of in-between moments, and that takes clearly a very special skill. And at any wedding, any event, one of the most impactful emotional tools, we'll say, is the music. And there's a band, Sound Connection, travels the world playing luxury weddings, corporate events, multi-day incentive programs, fundraising galas, does shows, you name it, and talk about finding the in-between moments and coming with no preconceived notions. Again, it's a skill that has to be developed. And with a band, it's a whole nother level of performing. It's not just about a great band with the great music. It's about understanding how to read the crowd. It's about understanding how to be flexible. It's about understanding how to find those moments and connect with the crowd and create an experience. And so to find out more information about Sound Connection, go to theweddingbiz.com/Sound Connection. Again, theweddingbiz.com/Sound Connection. And now back to my conversation with Christian Oth. What about, though, Christian? I mean, this goes for not just the high profile, though maybe there's a little bit more of an edge of, again, expectation. And do you ever feel pressure, and I'm curious what kind of challenges you run into, these are such critical, huge moments. I mean, I imagine at this point in your career, you don't really feel that, or do you?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I feel pressure. Saturday morning, I wake up, I was like, okay, today's the wedding day.
Yeah.
And I have 8-10 hours to shoot it, and better make them count, And so I prep as much as I can, and I always scout, and then I know what locations I'm going to be shooting at. Those are starting point though, because then I start moving around and shoot throughout the day. But it's in the morning. I sort of take a deep breath and try to eat a balanced meal, and be ready for the day. It is. I still get nervous. Yeah.
Can you tell me about any situations where just some kind of enormous, challenge, something happened and how you got through it? Anything pop into your mind when I say that?
We had a wedding recently last year. It was sort of at a glamping site in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And the challenge was rain. It was unpredictable rain. The forecast looked really good. And all of a sudden I'm looking up, wind starts coming, and then this huge downpour came. It was like we realized that we were in the mountains of some kind of a microclimate. We had to scramble. Because of the forecast, we hadn't even scouted for the portraits or anything. And all of a sudden, indoors. And we ran around in the rain. It got soaking wet and everything. And even the wedding planner, they had to move 200 people around and change everything up. And so I had to find a place to do all these family portraits, and found it. I found it inside the reception venue. There was this one wall that had wood paneling, and it just looked great.
Yeah.
And then those are portraits that really came out really well. But I didn't. Then I had about 15 minutes to do them.
Oh my gosh,
because people are moving around. But it looked great. Yeah. So I'm sure I had other challenges, but that's what I can think of now.
And I was also going to ask you about maybe some favorite events, but I think this is a good time to transition into this this new announcement that you have. I would love to hear more about it. I mean, you talk about the name of it and what it's going to be about.
Yeah. So as of recently, I've been shooting more editorial. I've been shooting fashion for Harper's Bazaar and whatnot. That work's been out there, and so what happened was that clients saw this and hired me off it. That basically they said I want this.
Okay.
I want this fashion shoot at Harper's Bazaar, and they feel like they can ask me because I also shoot weddings, so I shoot real people. And so I decided to come up with something that is kind of where both worlds meet each other, like editorial versus consumer prosumer, or whatever you want to call the wedding space. Photographing, let's say, non-professionals. They're not actors, they're not models.
Yeah.
And so then the other thing that I've been seeing is obviously people travel so much more. People are on Instagram, they show off the locations they're at. And how about we partner with a travel agency and do photo shoots. And we call them photo optimized travel experiences.
Okay.
So these experiences are, these, or let's say photo shoots, they can be had on different levels. So when you do a fashion shoot, you have a whole team. It's produced. You actually do have a producer. You have a hair person, a makeup person. You have a stylist assistant. You have my assistants, and everything. So those are bigger teams, and that's what's needed in order to get the kind of quality you have at a fashion shoot or advertising shoot or anything like that. So there is obviously the whole industry that does this. These are the pros. These are the high level people that have a vision, that do really great work. And I'm very fortunate myself to work with them on fashion shoots with models and etc. So I wanted to bring that to couples who are traveling and produce a shoot for them. Yeah. So we call this Jetsetters. It's going to be on my website. It's Christian Studio and then /Jetsetters. It's going live on next week on July 24th. You can see the photos that we've produced so far. We're still in the midst of producing other shoots. This is going to be something that's going to be available to couples. Yeah, and I want to say, again, I was really fortunate for you to show a bunch to me. And I mean, I'm not just saying this, Christian. I was blown away. Oh, thank you. Oh, I think this is going to be huge for you. I mean, yeah. I urge everybody to go to that link, and we're going to put it in the show notes. And I'm so excited for you about this. Oh my God. It's incredible. No, thank you. No, we've been working on it for a while, and we work with with Black Tomato, the travel agency. They've been wonderful in facilitating these shoots. For example, we've shot in Venice at the Aman Hotel. And there in Venice, I worked with a local wedding planner. They were able to help with with organizing the boats, the gondolas, and they opened up locations for us that would otherwise not have been available to the general public. Because I've been shooting so much, I know a lot of people that can help us, and everybody wants to participate. And I'll bet they do. Oh yeah. Then I shot another couple in Sintra in Portugal, and where we also got the hotel and everything, and it was just like these locations are mind-blowingly beautiful. Oh yeah, and obviously I love traveling and I love shooting these. Yeah, this is like where my heart's at. Yeah. It's talk about environment integrating with this kind, and obviously it could be connected with destination weddings, and it doesn't have to be either. Yeah, it absolutely it ties into what we're already doing now with the destination weddings, and if anything, it makes us produce even better work, because I'm always want to make sure that the editorial sensitivity or stays within my work also at weddings. Yeah. While it's still a wedding. Yeah. It's the thread that ties it all together really for you. Yeah. Yeah. So we've done these types of editorial shoots, by the way. Also, just recently I shot a wedding in Lake Como. There's the wedding day on Saturday, but on Friday we took the couple around for 3 hours on boats and everything, and we did another editorial shoot. Oh. Yeah. So, well, what about also the business aspect of this? I mean, it's the old cliche of the balance between art and business. And I remember with Van Gogh, I read this great book by John Irving, and that was what was lacking with him. And then he sold one painting his entire career, and then it was later that now there are millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, there's there's being able to understand, apply, integrate the business aspect of it. You're doing it with this new program. You've had to do it, your entire career. What about that? How did you figure this out? How do you do that? Obviously, I mean, I realized very early on that when this happened in 2001, when I decided to photograph weddings, that this is a business, because I wouldn't be shooting wedding if I wouldn't do it as a business. I applied certain business principles, to it. Like I needed to have somebody in sales and marketing, et cetera, and and I thought about it, how to grow this business. So over the years, I learned and I fine-tuned on particularly the client experience here, and to make this a successful business, so that people will come here and not only get great photography, but also have a great experience all around.
That's right.
But because they're having a great experience, they trust me, thus I get better photos. So, and there's nothing better than having happy clients, because happy clients then refer you and give you more work. So the one thing that I have to be honest, have to fight most of the time is mediocrity, because I want everybody to excel, because I have photographers shooting here, and we constantly review, we look at photos, we make sure that everybody's on the same page, and everybody here also delivers exceptional results.
Well, also, I read an article related to this. You talk about, to create this environment within your own team, being a leader versus a boss. And also you mentioned something else, hiring employees who have a stronger network and can relate to the clients better. But in terms of being a leader versus being a boss, what do you mean by that? Because you're the one setting the tone. It's your company. Oh,
absolutely. You have to basically not tell people what to do, but like empower them to do the right thing. And once I realized a few years ago, once you empower people, they'll do really well. And that was the key.
Was that easy for you in the beginning, or? No,
in the beginning when I got started, I have to be honest, I was kind of more like a boss, but I wasn't experienced. So like, I'm the boss, I'm going to tell you what time you come in and all that, it's like, but I quickly had to do away with that. But it's also difficult because you want people that work for you to excel, and hiring people is a difficult thing. Hiring the right people is that's
the
hardest.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate with my team now. This team that I have is incredible.
Well, I mean, again, that's part of choosing the right people. And I also read you said, I think this is really key. You said, I work very hard to make sure my employees are motivated and appreciated. We have a company culture that fosters professional friendships among colleagues too. But in terms of making sure they're motivated and appreciated, it's interesting to me, Christian, how, I don't know, little people really do voice that, vocalize that. I try to make it a real point to say that as much as I can to the people around me, my friends too,
Yeah. But it's very important that this happens, because otherwise you show up at your place of work and you're not happy.
Well, yeah. And I think we all need that nurturing. I mean, I think that's just human. That's part of it. We need it.
I'll be honest. I mean, we go up and down too. It's not always easy. We have challenges. And we, sometimes things happen, but by and large, I must say I'm very, very lucky to have very happy clients and a great energy with them. Yeah.
Earlier, we talked a little bit about social media, and you've been in this business long enough, that there was no social media, and now it's so prevalent. I mean, how do you feel that it's affected your business, and how do you view it now?
Social media is so ultra important in terms of, especially as a photographer. I mean,
it's all image. It's all images. Yeah.
I have a lot, as a photographer, you have the photos. And so I got to push the photos out. I got to make sure that, the photos are seen. This is where it's at. The magazines are, dying one by one. Almost the magazine format is dated.
Yeah. It hasn't changed.
Do you have texture on iPad? This app Texture? It's like you get every every magazine.
Everyone I know. Yeah, I don't do this, but yeah.
Yeah. So you're on Texture, and then you go through different magazines, which I will not name, but there, you got to swipe left and right, and then up and down.
Yeah.
You see to read the article. That's confusing. And then you have this magazine format you still have a typical magazine layout, and it's going away. It's being replaced by social media and digital hubs now.
And also workshops in terms of you helping other photographers. And can you tell me something about your workshops?
Yeah, so I am new to doing workshops, and I did one workshop here in New York to sort of find out what the questions are, what they want to get out of it. And it was a great workshop. And I will do another workshop soon. It will be announced. We still have to find a date. I want to do it right. And it's fun. I like doing it, but it's also a lot of work.
Yeah,
So
I'll bet.
To a workshop. My immediate problem is that I'm actually a working photographer.
Right. I was going to say, where do you have time for all of this?
And finding that time is hard to do a workshop. Yeah. It's going to do one in the fall, and I don't even know if I can get around to it. So I haven't even announced the date. May have to wait until next year.
Yeah. And by the way, we are in New York City. Those are the sirens in the background. Like, this is for real. Talk about environment. And also, Christian, just for a moment, for the photographers who are listening, like, what is your favorite equipment?
That's a good
Is that a big answer, or what it is now?
Okay. So photographers, hey, there's a lot of changes happening these days. Camera equipment. I'm shooting Canon. I have been shooting Canon for a while, and recently I've tried the Sonys, and I can't wrap my head around it. I went back to the Canon, and I just like the lenses on the Canon. I also know that the newer Nikon is a great camera, and the Nikon 850. Almost was going to jump to it, but I just been shooting with Canon for so many years, and I just love what I get.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the media equipment, but I also shoot a lot with the Phase 1. It's a medium format camera. Uh-huh. Love the quality I get out of it. Not so much at weddings. Sometimes I try to integrate it. It's a very big camera, and you definitely need an extra assistant just to, bring that camera along. But on editorial shoots, I shoot it a lot. Well,
Christian, this has been a blast talking with you. I love this conversation. This has been so much fun. What is the best way for people to find out more about you? And again, we're going to have links in the show notes to make it easy and with everything you talked about. But what is the couple best ways? Maybe website and social media handle?
Yeah, sure. So the website is ChristianOthStudio.com. It's Christian Oth, O-T-H, studio.com. Mm-hmm. And then the social media handle, the studio one is Christian Oth Studio.
Okay, great. And again, I want to urge everybody to go check out this new program, Jetsetters. I'm so excited for you. And I really thank you for the time.
Well, thank you so much, Andy. Yeah, that was nice for you to come into my studio.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for listening to my conversation with Christian Oth. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Be sure to check out the show notes and our website at theweddingbiz.com. Also, sign up for our Instagram. Follow us there at Wedding Biz Show. And please, if you enjoyed this, share it with your friends and colleagues. Would love your help in building the audience and our community. And also, if you enjoyed it, we would love you to review it wherever you get your podcasts from. And don't forget to listen to The Next Level, the episode that follows this, in which my co-host Melissa and I deliver specific tactical strategies that came from the interview to help you raise your business to the next level. And I want to mention next week's guest is very interesting. It's a bit of a departure from the show. It is Michelle Hodges, who has built an incredibly packed business at a high level in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Northern Virginia area, just totally under the radar. I mean, I'm talking very little social media and pretty much no networking. How does she do it? Don't we all want to be able to have a busy, packed business without all of that PR stuff? My God, it's a wonderful conversation. Michelle is so cool, learned so much. So be sure to tune in next week. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do so. And we'll catch you next week.